My parents always said we couldn't afford any luxuries. I believed them until I found their cruise itinerary. I stayed quiet and watched them pack. When they came back, the locks had already been changed. It all started on a regular day. I was tidying up the kitchen at my parents' place, keeping my nephew entertained, when something unusual caught my eye. A thick envelope, left out in the open, as if it were nothing important. What drew my attention first was the logo, a well-known cruise line, the kind you only see in fancy travel ads. Curious, I slid the documents out. Within seconds, the truth hit me. It was a fully planned vacation. My parents, my brother, my sister, with her spouse, and all their kids, all set for a 7-day luxury cruise, completely paid for. My stomach twisted. I gripped the papers so tightly my knuckles turned white, while my heartbeat roared in my ears. It couldn't be real. Just 2 months ago, my parents had told me their finances were tight. I had even canceled my own long-awaited trip, a getaway I'd planned with close friends for over a year. We had booked 5 peaceful days at a resort. Everything included. It would have been my first proper break in forever. I'd saved every penny, worked extra shifts, skipped social events, all for that one moment of peace. But then my parents called a family meeting. They told me my sister was struggling, overworked, exhausted, and stretched thin from childcare. Hiring help wasn't an option, so they asked me to step in. On top of that, they warned me, times were tough, and no one should be spending on luxuries right now. My mom even shook her head and said, "We all have to make hard choices." So I canceled. My friends were disappointed, but they understood. They went without me. And now, standing there, holding undeniable proof of their betrayal, something inside me broke. They hadn't just gone on a secret trip. They had completely excluded me. Not a single word, not even a hint. That same morning, my brother had texted me, asking to borrow money for car repairs. My sister had asked if I could babysit next weekend. And just yesterday, my mom had called to chat about random everyday things. All while they were quietly packing for a cruise set to leave in 2 days. A trip scheduled for the one period I could never take time off from work. I looked closer at the dates. This wasn't some coincidence. They had planned it, knowing I couldn't come, just in case I found out. Then I heard footsteps and soft humming. My mom was walking down the hallway. I quickly slid the papers back into the envelope, and stepped away from the counter just as she walked into the kitchen. "Oh, sweetheart, thanks for helping out with him today," she said, grabbing a cold drink from the fridge. "You're such a blessing." I only nodded. I couldn't trust my voice. She didn't look guilty, not even a flicker of doubt in her expression. I forced a polite smile. "Happy to help," I replied. She glanced at the wall clock. "I need to stop by a few places before," she paused, catching herself, as if she'd almost let something slip. I stood silently. She cleared her throat and smiled again. Before dinner, I let her leave without saying a word. A long time ago, I accepted that fairness didn't exist in this family. When I was 6, I begged for ballet classes. My mom sighed and told me they were too expensive. "We just can't afford that," she said. I let it go. I wasn't but only a few weeks later, my sister got signed up for horseback riding lessons. And it wasn't a one-time thing. It was private, weekly training. My parents called it nurturing her passion. They never saw anything wrong with it. That's how it always was. My siblings got opportunity. I got excuses. When I was 12, I asked for a bike. That same year, my brother was gifted a brand new mountain bike, shiny blue, with rugged tires. When I reminded them about my request, my dad handed me my brother's old bike. The seat was torn, the handlebars wobbled, and the brakes barely worked. "It still works," he told me. "No need to waste money." When I was 15, my classmates were getting ready for a school trip to Texas. I wanted to go so bad. I saved every cent I could, from babysitting, running errands, even skipping school lunches just to save a bit more. But a week before the final payment was due, my mom sat me down. "Sweetheart, we just can't cover it right now," she said gently. "It's too much, maybe next time." I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. Deep down, I already knew how this would go. A month later, my brother went on a ski trip with his friends. My parents paid for everything. I asked about it once, just once. My mom gave me a tired smile. "Honey, it's different. He really needed this. It's good for him to spend time with his friends, as if mine didn't matter. After that, I stopped asking. By the time I reached college, I understood my place in the family. I was the reliable one, the independent one, the one who wasn't supposed to need help. While my sister and brother were handed money without question, I was offered life advice about working hard. When my sister got married, my parents paid for everything, the venue, the food, the dress, every single thing. When I graduated, they handed me a generic congratulations card. No cash, no support, just words. When my brother hit a rough patch in his 20s, he made poor financial decisions, lost jobs, and piled up debt. Every time my parents stepped in to bail him out. Once, I finally asked my dad why they never helped me the same way. He looked at me and said, "You're doing fine on your own. You don't need us like he does." But the truth was, I did need them. I just never got the chance to show it. By the time I had a full-time job, my parents started asking me for favors, watching the kids, helping with costs, always taking, never giving. And then came the vacations. That was the last straw. It wasn't anything new. Plans would start, trips would be discussed, ideas would be floated. But when it came time to book, something always came up. Money was tight. Someone needed help. My sister's kids had school. My brother had work. Or my parents had too many bills that month, so we'd cancel. Or so I thought. Now staring at those cruise tickets, I saw the real story. They weren't just canceling vacations, they were canceling my vacations. Every time a trip included me, it would fall apart like magic. But when it was just them, money was never an issue. I thought about everything I had given up for the trips I had skipped, the friends I had disappointed, the years I had put them first, and I thought about how they hid this from me, didn't even mention it. They planned it in a way that I couldn't join. Even if I found out, they never felt the need to give me a reason. That's when something inside me shifted. I didn't speak up. I didn't confront them. I didn't make a scene. I just stopped. The first test came 2 days later. My sister called, sounding stressed. "Hey, can you watch the kids this weekend? Something came up at work, and I need the hours." Normally I'd say yes. I always did. I'd change my plans, give up my free time, drop everything to help her. This time I said, "I can't." There was a pause. "What?" "I can't," I said again. "I'm busy." I could hear her surprise. "But you're never busy on weekend." That hurt more than I expected. She wasn't even being mean. She just assumed. I was always free. "Not anymore." "Sorry," I said, and hung up. The messages started coming an hour later. "Mom, your sister said you won't watch the kids. Are you okay?" "Mia, just busy." "Busy with what?" I didn't answer. I let her wonder. The next day, my brother called. "Hey, quick favor. Can you lend me $100 until I get paid?" I almost laughed. This was the same brother who had just been on a trip I wasn't invited to. The same one my parents had always supported while telling me I was fine on my own. "Sorry," I said. "Money's tight." There was silence. "Oh really?" He sounded thrown off. I don't think I'd ever said no before. "Yeah," I said. "We all have to give up stuff, right?" I could hear the surprise in his voice. He muttered something about sorting it out, and ended the call. It didn't take long for them to notice something was off. Mom called that night, her tone extra sweet. "Hey sweetie, is everything all right? You've been a bit quiet lately." I leaned back on my sofa, and stared at the ceiling. "I'm okay, just busy with my job." "Oh great, great," she said, then paused. "You know, we missed you last week." I almost choked in surprise. They missed me? The same people who made sure I couldn't join them? "That's funny," I replied. "I didn't even know you were away." Silence. I let it hang there thick and tense. She didn't know I'd found out. "Anyway," I added, keeping my voice light. "Hope you enjoyed it." I hung up before she could respond. Things started to fall apart quickly. My sister had a tough time without me. She had to pay for a babysitter, and suddenly her extra work hours didn't add up anymore. My brother had to deal with his own money problems. Turns out, when you spend money thinking someone will always bail you out, it hurts when they stop. My parents weren't used to me pulling away, not picking up every call, not rushing over when they needed me. I didn't argue with them. I didn't point fingers. I just wasn't around, and they noticed. I could tell exactly when their confusion turned to worry. Mom showed up at my place out of the blue. She never did that. I opened the door and saw her standing there holding a bag of home-cooked food like it was some kind of gift to smooth things over. "Thought I'd drop off some dinner," she said, grinning a little too much. I let her in, but I didn't feel the usual quiet. I let her squirm, glancing around my place as if searching for signs that something was wrong with me. Finally, she let out a breath. "Hey, just tell me what's happening." I blinked. "Nothing's happening, Mom." She put the bag on the counter. "You've been acting strange. You're not answering calls. You're dodging your family." "I'm not dodging anyone," I said plainly. "I've just been busy." Her lips tightened. "Are you upset with me?" I looked right at her, holding her stare, and letting the quiet grow. I wanted her to feel it. "Why would I be upset?" I asked at last. "Because I had to skip my trip while you all went on a cruise without me." Her face went pale. I'd never seen her look ashamed before. She opened her mouth, then shut it. "It wasn't like that," she mumbled. I tilted my head. "Then what was it like?" She stumbled over her words. We didn't think you'd want to come, and you're always so tied up with work. We figured." "That's funny," I said, my voice steady. "Because you never even asked." She swallowed hard. "Sweetie, it wasn't personal." "It was," I said. "It always is." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I let her stew in it, and then for the first time ever, I didn't let her off easy. I let her sit there shifting awkwardly, trying to find a way to turn things back in her favor. For once I didn't help her. She had no words to fix what happened, no excuse to make it okay. I watched her try her usual moves, pretending to worry, guilt-tripping, brushing it off, but none of them worked. I wasn't playing along anymore. After a moment of silence, she let out a nervous chuckle. "Oh, Scarlett, don't be so silly. It was just a vacation." I gave her a smile, but not the warm one she expected. "You're right," I said. "And now it's just me being busy, just me putting my own life first. Nothing personal." Her face stiffened. She wasn't used to being on this end of a conversation. She tried to keep things cheery as she left, but I could hear the strain in her voice, the doubt. She couldn't figure out what was going on. I wasn't yelling or causing a fuss. I was just done. She must have called my dad on her way home, because the next day he showed up at my workplace. I spotted him through the office glass doors, standing outside with his hands in his pockets, waiting. Typical. He'd never cared about my space, so why would he start now? I walked out, but kept moving toward my car. "Scarlett," he called, rushing to catch up. "Come on, don't act like this." I unlocked my door. "Act like what?" "You're being unfair. Your mom's worried sick." I almost laughed. "Worried about what?" "That I finally figured it out." He kept going. "She said you think we left you out on purpose." "That's nonsense." I turned to look at him, leaning on my car. "You knew I couldn't take time off work. You picked that exact time. That wasn't random." He snorted. "What? Are we supposed to plan our whole lives around you?" "No, just don't lie to me." That stopped him for a sec. He breathed out hard through his nose, shaking his head. "Look, we didn't tell you because we knew you'd make a big deal out of it." I smiled. "Right, so the answer was to prove I was right." He shifted, folding his arms. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You've always been so independent. We thought you wouldn't care about something like this." That hurt. Not because it was true, but because it's what they always told themselves to excuse their actions. I had never been on my own by choice. I'd been pushed into it. I let out a breath. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice steady. "When you needed me, when you needed cash, or babysitting, or favors, you never once thought I was too on my own then." His face hardened. "Scarlett." "No," I cut him off sharply. "You don't get to twist it. You don't get to stand there and act like this is my fault. You needed me my whole life. I needed you once. And you lied to me." I opened my car door, and he stepped closer, like he wanted to stop me, but something in my expression must have told him not to try. I got in and closed the door. I didn't look back as I drove off, but I wasn't done. I knew how they operated. If I didn't make things crystal clear, they'd convince themselves of whatever story made them feel okay. So I made sure there was only one story. I went home and blocked my sister's number, then my brother, then my parents. Then I did something I should have done ages ago. I left the family group chat. Right away, less than a minute later, my mom was calling my work phone. I didn't pick up. Then an email appeared. Subject: "What are you doing?" It read, "This is child. I don't know what you think you're doing, but we're still your family. Call me back." I deleted it. They weren't my family anymore. They'd made that choice long ago. I was just finally making mine. I didn't expect things to fall apart so fast without me. At first, they acted like nothing had changed. Maybe they thought I just needed a little time to calm down, that I'd come back like I always did, that I'd feel bad enough to answer a call, reply to a text, slip back into the role I'd played for years. But this time, I did, and without me, everything started crumbling. It was slow at first, small stuff. My sister couldn't find a babysitter, and began missing work shifts. A few missed shifts led to warnings, and warnings led to fewer hours. She was earning half what she used to. My brother, whose money situation was always a mess, ran out of people to ask for help. The cash I'd lent him before was never paid back, and now that I was gone, he had no backup. He always assumed our parents would save him if I didn't, but they were struggling too, because the truth was, they'd relied on me more than they ever admitted. I hadn't directly given them money, but I'd helped by covering bills when they were short, buying groceries, and paying for small things here and there. I'd fixed problems before they even became problems, patching up holes in a sinking ship, and now that I was no longer around, everything started to fall apart quickly. 7 days after I stopped talking to them, my mom called my work phone. I didn't pick up, and it went straight to voicemail. Her voice was surprisingly calm. "Scarlett, honey, I know you're upset, but things are tough right now. Your sister's having a hard time. Your brother's in a tough spot. We just need a little support to get through this rough patch. Call me back." I didn't call. The next day, another message came through. This time, she sounded more tense. "Scarlett, I don't understand what you're doing. We're your family. You're making things harder than they need to be. I know you don't want us to suffer." I let it pass. Then the real pressure came. I started receiving calls from unknown numbers, one after the other. Finally, I picked up, already exhausted. "Are you really going to let Mom and Dad lose their house?" my sister's voice asked. I blinked. "Huh," I replied. "They're behind on house payments," she exclaimed. "They helped me and Henry when we were in trouble, and now they're in deep. They're weeks away from losing it all." Something inside me went still. This was bigger than I had thought. I knew they were struggling, but this was shocking. They had spent a lot of money on a luxury trip a few months ago, making me feel guilty for wanting a break to help the family, and now they were facing financial ruin. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice flat. "Oh my gosh, Scarlett, really? Mom and Dad could end up with nothing. They need help." I paused, letting the weight of the situation sink in. They needed help, just like I had when I was growing up. Back then, I had worked my way through school, juggled multiple jobs, and managed alone, while they freely gave money to my sister and her partner. They'd never stepped up for me, but now, in their time of need, I was supposed to be their savior. "This is Mom and Dad's house," my sister continued, pushing. "The house we grew up in. You can't just—" I stopped her mid-sentence. "If I lost my job tomorrow, if I couldn't pay my bills, if I called, pleading for a place to stay, would you take me in?" There was a long, heavy silence that said it all. "Scarlett," she murmured softly. "That's not it," I said. "It's exactly that. And you know it." There was another break, and then she got angry. "You're being so nasty," she huffed. "We're family. We were family when you all took a trip and left me behind." I shot back. "That's different," she said. "See you, Margot," I said, and hung up. This time, I felt nothing. No shame, no hesitation. They had chosen their path, and now they were on it. A few days later, my mom showed up at my place. I wasn't even shocked. I opened the door, and there she was, face pale, eyes puffy from crying. No pretending this time. "Scarlett," she whispered, "we've got nowhere left." I let her words sit in the air. She was serious. They had run out of options, used up all their backup plans. I was their last resort. And right then, I knew if I let them in, if I bailed them out after all this, they'd keep relying on me forever. They would never change, and I'd never be able to break free. I took a slow breath, holding the door firm. "I'm sorry," I said, "but I can't do it." Her lips trembled. "Please, just," she started. "If I was standing here," I said gently, "would you let me in?" Tears ran down her face. "You're our kid," she said. I nodded. "And I was your kid, when you chose to skip me." I stepped back and closed the door. I stood there, listening. I could hear her sobbing, begging once more. Then finally, I heard her leave. I breathed out, feeling a weight lift off me.
It was done. Was I wrong for not helping? Drop your thoughts in the comments.